Hi there, folks. This is Sam Price, and I'm here for another episode of Probate Notes. And I have a really special guest on today. We're going to have some very interesting conversations about valuations of intellectual property rights. Iver Scott with Scott Valuation LLC is here with me. Hi there, Iver. Thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, Sam. Glad to be here.
Well, what I would like to do is kind of get started with a little bit about your background. How did you get into doing the valuations that you do today?
Well, I went to I went to the University of Oregon, some in Duck, and so I have a finance undergrad degree, and I actually went into construction after that, and built houses around Portland for a while, but wanted to go back to finance, so went back to grad school at Northeastern and sort of focused on business valuation and valuation of assets and that sort of thing. That was in Boston, but wanted to get back to the Pacific Northwest. So started a career after grad school at Moss Adams, which is a large accounting consulting firm headquartered in Seattle, and it's now Baker Tilly. And there, I was there for a long time and started out in business valuation, but you have the opportunity to specialize. And we had enough interesting music work that came up and enough interesting like literary copyrights and trade name, trademark valuations, patent valuations. And I just sort of gravitated to it, right? So when you're dealing with valuation, there's kind of a spectrum between art and science, right? And so, like, if you're talking about equipment, can be a little more on the science side of things, and business valuation tends to be in the middle between art and science, and financial instruments can be right in that realm too. But then more towards the art side of things. Is intellectual property valuation, because you're often don't have as much data available to you and you have to get kind of creative. So often intellectual property, the actual math is sometimes not as difficult as like complex financial instruments, which we also do. But it's the tricky part is getting your head around the art. And I sort of grew up doing art, so I liked that aspect of it, and so gravitated that way. So we did a whole bunch of interesting, kind of high-profile jobs, and just enjoyed it. Genre is important, you know. Age of who's listening to it and life stage is important. Uh, so you've got a new song that you don't know, it hasn't been released yet. Sometimes you've got songs that haven't been written yet, but there are advances, and you need to figure out, is this writer, songwriter kicking out good music now? Are people like their music? Is there a good public commercial response to their music? Are they even writing? Did they take their advance and go buy fast cars and fast living, because that's what happens with artists sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And or is it, has it been released? So most most commercial successes, the sales of it follow this, right? It, there's a little slow point and then whoop, it goes up. Now the steepness of that curve has to do with the success of it, right? Some songs that have just taken off, just go, right? But then after a while they slow down, and then they're gonna go to the back bargain bin, at the record store, so to say, right? And so Billy Joel even writes about that in the song. It's about, if I don't do this, I'm going to end up in the bargain bin at the record store. So, anyway, so when you are trying to figure out apples to apples, you want to know where that song is on that S curve. That's the biggest. But also, um, if we're talking about country music, that's a little bit different market than pop. It's pretty similar these days. It didn't used to be, but it's pretty similar. But if we're talking about adult contemporary, that's a different market than the younger crowd music. So it'll have a different S curve, a lot shorter height, before it slows down. Or sometimes you're talking about deep catalog songs that have been around for 20 years and people are going to keep listening to them.
And there's some other type of ability for the heirs or beneficiaries of the artist's estate to have some type of right to reversion or recapture. Can you just maybe touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so this comes up in music more than anything else, but so there was a line in the sand. So songs written before 1978 have a certain life, and then songs written from 1978. This is according to the U.S. statute, right? Songs written from 1978 and after have a life of the artist plus 70 years. Okay, so with both the copyright rules for pre-1978 and for those 1978 and after, you have what are called reversion and recapture rights. And so, in particular, the ones written 1978 after are come up a lot more in our world now. So those are reversion rights, and so what they do is they allow termination of license to a third party at 35 years from the date of grant of the license to a third party. And so it's actually very easy. If you are the heir of the songwriter, and you want that song back, you have to get a lawyer, and it's 2 years to 10 years before that 35-year mark from the grant date. And you can just, I think it's as simple, I'm not an attorney, but I think it's as simple as a letter from your attorney to just get it back, and then you get it back, which is important if you're going to put a price on music, because again, remember when we're talking about the value has to do with the future cash flows. Well, if you think the cash flows for this song are going to last for another 70 years, but you actually it's very likely that the heirs are going to take it back after 35, you're going to be willing to pay less than if you think the heirs are not going to be willing, not going to be on it, right? So you get, when you're looking at music, you get certain music that nobody's paying any attention to, and the heirs don't even seem to know that they have any rights, right? So from my perspective, that's a more valuable song. Again, apples to apples, all things being equal, than one where that the heirs are all very litigious and have good lawyers who are keeping a very close eye, right? And maybe the heirs have the songwriter share, but they don't have the music publishing share, and maybe they're going to get their lawyer involved to, recapture that publishing share away from the music company.